Hi, I'm Chris. Welcome back to FRAG-MENTAL. Thank you for joining me. Strong video idea for you today, because out of the hundreds of fragrances I own, I have picked out the strongest fragrances in my entire collection. So if you like them strong, let's go. Not all the time, but sometimes I like to wear a big fragrance, a strong fragrance, a fragrance that will enter the room before me, but not in an obnoxious way, in a really good way that makes people stop and turn and go, wow, what are you wearing? That smells fantastic. I'm not always in the mood for one of those fragrances. Sometimes I like to be a little bit more subtle, maybe when I'm in the gym. But when I want to go strong, big, loud, and impactful, this is what I'm going for. One that I've loved for years. It blew me away when I first smelled it, and since it was released a few years ago, I've still not smelled anything that reminds me of it. This is totally sitting out there on its own, doing its own thing, blowing my mind every time I wear it. Byron Parfums The Chronic. We're talking cinnamon, pepper, amber, patchouli, leather, musk, and sandalwood. Despite the absolute jaw-dropping strength of this fragrance, this will stay on your skin for days until you shower, basically. Despite all that, there's some little bit of magic with this fragrance. I've always thought there's something in here that is more than the sum of its parts. I look at the note breakdown, and on paper it looks interesting, but only when I spray this is it really captivating me, because there's a note that's almost like a bit of a deep heat sort of note, you know, the stuff that you rub on your legs to keep them warm in the winter. Not totally. There's just a little bit of something that makes me think of that, and it just brings this punchiness to the fragrance. It makes it completely unique. It makes it attention grabbing in a really good way. It's woody, it's spicy, it's creamy, it's sexy, it's very strong. If you like the sound of all that and you haven't yet tried it, get your nose on the Chronic. Next up is a fragrance that actually is quite summer appropriate or warm weather appropriate because of the notes that are in here. This isn't just a magnificent fragrance, this is a Mangonificent fragrance. As well as that beautiful mango, there's rose, jasmine, honey, vanilla, sandalwood, and moss. The amazing thing that they did with this fragrance, I'm going to break it down for you in case this one's gone over your head. They took the word magnificent and they took the word mango, because it's a very prominent note, and they brought them together to create a new word which perfectly describes this fragrance. Mangonificent. Get it? You're welcome. When I first smelled this, I thought there was maybe oud or leather or something really deep and rich and robust, because it is super powerful, but there aren't any of those notes, or none that seem to be listed anyway. The rose is this dark, full, voluptuous, brooding rose, which just seems to pair perfectly with the mango, and the mango itself isn't too fresh and tropical and bright. It's more of a very over-ripened, deep mango sort of smell, and because of that depth it has an amazing strength. This is a fragrance that is completely appropriate for colder weather because it is so strong, but because of the mango element in here, it does have a bit of that fresh fruitiness, and I think the contrast is stunning in this, and it actually makes it wearable in warmer temperatures as well. So whether it's warm or cold, this would be a versatile fragrance for all year round. It's not just mango, it's not just magnificent, it's mango magnificent. Is that right? One of my favorite brands that creates some of the strongest fragrances is next on the list, and I would say from this brand, this is probably the strongest, because this just lasts and lasts and goes on and on. It's Angel Share from Kilian. It's a boozy boy. We've got some cognac in here, and it is a beautiful smooth cognac, further smoothed out and given some creamy addictive depth from praline. And then just when you thought it couldn't get any better, there is a gorgeous sticky sweet dried dates accord. This is probably one of the most sensual fragrances that I own. It just pulls you in, it draws you in. The quality of this smells insane. It is so smooth. Of course, it's very strong, but certainly not in a way that the strength repels people or pushes people away. It's the sort of strength that just reaches out there, grabs people, and just gently and slowly and seductively pulls them in, and they would be compelled to just be drawn towards you and the smell that you're wearing. Have I sold it to you? I think I just sold it to myself all over again with that description. It's sexy as hell, it's strong as hell, it's an absolutely stunning fragrance. One of my favorites from Kilian. I haven't yet smelled the new Angel Share on the Rocks. If they can keep that Angel Share smell but freshen it up and make it a little bit more versatile, because for me this is probably more autumn and winter, then who knows? Maybe I will wear it even more than this one.
If you love fragrance as much as I do, head over to my online store luxparfum.co.uk. You'll find my favourite brands plus brands you can't find anywhere else in the UK. Link is in the description.
So this is the only designer fragrance on the list. The very first version of this, the Eau de Toilette, is probably the strongest beast mode Eau de Toilette fragrance I have ever smelled. So this one follows suit. From Dior, it's Sauvage Elixir. There's some of what was very popular about the original Sauvage smell, but there's also this very masculine, slightly classical, old school cologne just layered in there. And then to bring it all the way up into modern day, there are these punchy, robust, spicy notes. It might be the lavender mixed with the spices that give it this slightly classical, masculine perfumery sort of smell, but it just nods at that because it does smell very modern at the same time. It is insanely strong. You definitely don't want to overspray this, especially if you're in the vicinity of Eau de Erica. It's that strong that it could maybe border on getting a little bit obnoxious if you overdo it, so don't overdo it. I think this smells absolutely fantastic. Probably my favorite Sauvage fragrance. It's certainly the most impactful and the strongest. Bit of modern Sauvage smell, bit of old school classic cologne, a lot of strength. Sauvage Elixir is a powerhouse. Argos fragrances make some big fragrances, and their original Triumph of Bacchus was a very big fragrance, but this one is even bigger. This is Triumph of Bacchus Extrait. Just a little bit higher in concentration, so you get the extra strength, but you still get what was amazing about Triumph of Bacchus, which is a woody, fruity, boozy rum scent. There's also some tobacco in here, which is another reason why I adore this fragrance. So tobacco, boozy rum, lots of wood, creamy sandalwood, but a little bit of fruit in here just to level things out a little bit so it doesn't go too dark and it keeps an element of playfulness, I would say. If you want to own a room in a strong, sweet, woody, boozy, tobacco sort of way, then this one will definitely own it for you. The final fragrance is a fairly new fragrance, but one that I've talked about quite a lot on my channel in terms of its strength, and I was at an event just a couple of days ago and literally it entered the room before me. No joke, literally. From Amouage, it's Purpose 50. The engine driving this powerhouse is Omani frankincense, but it's also got pink pepper, vetiver, rose, akigala wood, a little bit of suede leather, vanilla and saffron. Of course, I'm not sure exactly how Quentin Beach put this fragrance together, but it is probably his most beach mode fragrance that he's ever created. It's almost like he decided to just overdose the frankincense, almost too much frankincense in there, which gives it this power, but all the other notes are added in there to just offset the strength of the frankincense, to balance things out. It's almost like each of these other notes is not only balancing out the strength of the frankincense, but each note is also teasing out a different facet of the frankincense, which creates this just magical cacophony of Middle Eastern smell. I wore this for an event. I went for afternoon tea in Claridge's, and I was careful not to overspray the fragrance. I didn't underspray it, of course, but I didn't go too ham on the trigger because I was sitting on a train on the way down to London. I got there and immediately several people were saying someone's wearing Amouage and it's Purpose 50. We sat down to enjoy the afternoon tea, and further down the table, people were saying, who's wearing Amouage? And I had to say it was me. Because so many people were mentioning it, I was starting to think, had I actually oversprayed it? Because I was kind of dominating the room, and whilst you want your fragrance to be noticed, you don't want to necessarily just club everyone else's fragrances into submission, because I mean that's going to piss people off a little bit. So I think next time I will go a little bit less on the trigger, maybe 3, maybe 4 sprays. I think I went 6 to 8 sprays on it, but I'm going to go less next time because I think even just a couple of sprays and this is still going to be a big fragrance in the room. So I want it big, but I don't want it too big You know what I'm saying? Okay, those are the strongest of the strong fragrances in my collection. There's maybe a few I've forgotten to include, so I'm sure you'll remind me of those down in the comments. But also, let me know what your strongest fragrances are. What are your absolute beast mode powerhouses that are still wearable? They have to be a wearable fragrance, not so strong and fecal and barnyardy and awful that you're gonna clear a room. We want to own the room in a good way. We don't want to evacuate the room. So let me know which strong fragrances you like to wear. If you like the video, you know what to do. Give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and if you do all that, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.